Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down.
Here we are, folks.
Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that St. Simon's down in Boulders. Folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Friday, January 26, 2024, the International Criminal Court, a body organized by the United Nations to settle disputes between sovereign states, has issued a preliminary ruling in the ludicrous case brought by the ruling cabal known as the African National Congress in South Africa. A case without merit, which unfortunately the court did not dismiss today. No doubt at the behest of their masters in Tehran, Beijing, or Moscow, wherever it is that money's coming from, and that succor and support is coming from. The African National Congress is now happy that they've fulfilled their obligation to tarnish the reputation of a sovereign state and misuse the term genocide. That said, this ruling means absolutely nothing. The reason I say that they're probably happy is, number one, the case should not have continued. This is a ludicrous case with no merit, and it is a fictional case from the standpoint that Israel and South Africa do not have a dispute. But ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you right now, South Africa and Israel do have a dispute. The betrayal, the lies, the anti-Semitism displayed by the African National Congress against the sovereign state of Israel will lead to crippling economic blows against South Africa, and unfortunately its citizens will suffer the consequences of ANC misrule and communist delight. Well, nothing new. That's what South Africans experience every day, so I'm sure they'll survive this too. But South Africa took a case before the International Criminal Court, which has no merit. It fabricated a dispute that does not exist. There was no effort whatsoever between the ANC-controlled government of South Africa and the government of Israel to settle a dispute. Therefore, the case is a manufactured basis and has no standing, in my view, before the court. Now let's talk about today's decision, which was widely expected to condemn Israel for genocide. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the bottom line. Hamas was not mentioned in this. Now, people are going to say, how can Hamas not be mentioned in this ruling by the International Criminal Court? Well, Hamas is not a sovereign state. It is a political organization that runs a territory which is a quasi-sovereign state, the Gaza Strip, under the Palestinian Authority. So the challenge here, of course, is that it is not a signatory to the court, and therefore the court has no jurisdiction over it. Therefore, you would not hear a conversation about Hamas and its barbaric acts. So that's explained that up front. So they're not part of the dispute, even though they caused the dispute. The dispute is between two sovereign states, one which claims they have a dispute with the other sovereign state. But of course, they're nothing but liars, outright liars. That's what they're doing, lying to the world. That is what the ANC is doing, lying to the world. So why did the court not call out the kidnapping, the barbarity, and call for the release of hostages? Because it was not its role. So, for anyone upset about the court, let's just be straight about that. We're objective here when it comes to what's supposed to be done, what's right and wrong. The court had no bearing on it, so that was not their place. However, the court did entertain the nonsense that ANC brought to the court by issuing a ruling. Now, here's two things about today's discussion from the International Court of Justice that you must be cognizant of. Number one, it doesn't matter what the ICJ determines. It doesn't, other than world condemnation and people turning against one state or the other. The International Criminal Court lacks any enforcement body whatsoever. You don't need the International Criminal Court for the United Nations Security Council to pass a resolution to attack your country, to embargo your country, to isolate your country. You don't need the International Court of Justice. You don't need ICJ ruling for the General Assembly of the United Nations to condemn your actions. Those things are not necessary. The UN can take action against its members when it desires with the mere vote of the Security Council, and they can even take it to the General Assembly should they desire. The International Criminal Court is meant to settle a dispute. There's no dispute here between South Africa and Israel. Now, that doesn't mean that South Africa or another party cannot take a case to the International Criminal Court feeling aggrieved about issues in another country. They certainly can, and in particular under the Genocide Convention. This has been determined by a case with Gambia previously. So it can be done. There is a precedent for it. However, in this case, it's a fictional dispute created by a corrupt ANC acting, no doubt, at the behest of either theocrats or communists abroad. Yeah. So the bottom line here. Yeah, well, John Jarvis, I don't see it in the decision anywhere. I didn't watch the hearings, and I've seen no news coverage addressing that. So if they did it, then it's being hidden. But the court has no authority. It's just a call. It's just a call. So they have no enforcement authority whatsoever. They cannot enforce any of their judgments. And the case, now the ICJ works when states agree to accept the ruling of the court, and that worked in the case of Namibia versus Botswana in Sududu Island over 2 decades ago. It worked in the case of the Bokasi Peninsula between Nigeria and Cameroon. However, the International Court of Justice ruling against China in the South China Seas was simply ignored by China, and nothing has been done about it. It's a toothless tiger. However, if you want to condemn someone, if you want to spread your hatred of another country, it can be a useful tool. This is an abuse of the court system. There was never going to be a decision here from the court that was going to address what the South African government ludicrously claimed was an urgent case. Now, the South African government did not provide any germane evidence or anything that really would meet the threshold of evidentiary proof in a court of law. Tweets, mean tweets, public utterances, TikTok videos from privates in the Israeli Defense Force, members of the government who do not represent the government in opposition. These are not acts of a government, and that's what this is a case about, one government against another government. So let's talk about what the court has ordered. Bear in mind that it has the ability to enforce none of these things, and I'm going to make the bigger point here, the most important point about all of this. You ready for this? The things that the International Court of Justice has ruled on today are simply things that all sovereign states already have an obligation to abide by under international norms and the Genocide Convention. So all it's doing is saying, well, Israel, you have to follow the rules. They did not order a ceasefire because they have no authority to do it. That's what people were hoping for. There's no ceasefire. So let's get to it. So the court ordered Israel by a vote of 15-2 to refrain from acts under the Genocide Convention. Specifically, this is what they stated. The State of Israel shall, in accordance with its obligations under the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in relation to the Palestinians in Gaza, take all measures within its power to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Convention, in particular, killing members of a group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, or in whole or in part, or imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. Well, they've simply read from the convention, and they simply said that Israel should, under its obligation, existing obligation, comply, which Israel has argued it's doing. Israel has argued that it is complying with the convention. So that's a nothing burger, 15 votes to 2. So the judge against it was Judge Julia Sebatunde from Uganda and Judge ad hoc Aaron Barak from Israel. Number 2, by a vote of 16-1, prevent and punish incitement to genocide. The State of Israel shall take all measures within its power to prevent and punish the direct and public incitement to commit genocide in relation to members of the Palestinian group in the Gaza Strip. Only one judge voted against. That was Judge Julia Sebatunde from Uganda. So, the State of Israel will take all measures to prevent and punish incitement to genocide. Wow, South Africa's not guilty of that, or not innocent of that. That should have been directed against the Parliament of South Africa, who is negligent, and the justice system of South Africa, who has allowed a member of Parliament to incite violence against a specific ethnic group, calling for the murder of white South Africans. One Julius Malema, a member of Parliament in South Africa, actually isn't doing exactly what that court ordered Israel not to do today. Members of the South African Parliament openly calling for the murder of white South Africans to exterminate them. These are members of Parliament, actual people in Parliament in South Africa. Yet South Africa has the audacity to say that Israel is committing genocide. The court's ruling right here could very easily have been directed against South Africa for its negligence and its failure to uphold the terms of the Genocide Convention. The third decision, by a vote of 16-1, take effective measures to allow humanitarian assistance. The State of Israel shall take immediate and effective measures to ensure the provision of urgently needed basic services, humanitarian assistance, to address the adverse conditions of life faced by Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Once again, against Judge Julia Sebatunde from Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, Israel's already doing this. They're already doing this. So this is a nothing burger as well. Nothing burger. They're telling Israel that they must take steps to allow humanitarian assistance. Well, people would all be dead in the hundreds of thousands had Israel not already allowed that to happen. So, nothing there, once again. And number 4, in a vote of 15-2, take effective measures to prevent destruction of evidence. The State of Israel should take effective measures to prevent the destruction and ensure the preservation of evidence related to allegations of acts within the scope of the Convention. Against Judge Julia Sebatunde of Uganda and Judge ad hoc Aaron Barak of Israel. So, that one is kind of disrespectful to Israel. Basically, it's accusing Israel of committing these crimes and hiding evidence. Seriously? That's probably why Barak voted against it. But this is not anything that has any legs to it. And the final ruling here in a vote of 15-2 was submit a report to the court on compliance with all measures within 1 month. The State of Israel shall submit a report to the court on all measures taken to give effect to this order within 1 month as from the date of the order. Once again, a vote of 15-2, Judge Julia Sebatunde of Uganda and Judge ad hoc Aaron Barak of Israel voted against that ruling. So 5 rulings. The court has no teeth whatsoever. And every one of these rulings, with the exception of one of safeguarding evidence, is simply something that Israel is clearly doing already. And I can't make the claim Israel is safeguarding evidence because I'm not aware of Israel committing crimes. So why would they need to preserve evidence? Now, I'm pretty sure that Israel probably has records of its cabinet meetings, of its defense force senior meetings, probably recordings, video teleconferences and such. That could be the evidence that perhaps that they're seeking to protect and safeguard that information. So maybe that's what it is. But there is nothing here. So further stuff to talk about this, folks. Let me get to some further points here. But before I do, I want to read some of the chat and see who's in the chat here. All right, so let me say hello. We've got Val Cooper's here, and then we've got Trevor Bush, John Jarvis. Despite 40 minutes of talking where Hamas was mentioned once, Israel must try and do better and report back in a month. No censure. No ceasefire, but the ANC will be running victory laps. Gus is here. Dylan is here. Gosh. Graham is back. Why is nobody taking Israel to the ICJ for crimes against humanity? Yes, exactly. Crimes against humanity is a better term rather than genocide here. My 5 Pence is back. Keith Alderson in from Coventry. Alan Kotza loading Monday from the Western Cape. Christine Ehlers. So the only thing to come out of this is seeing South Africa's allegiance to with Iraq and other terrorists. No, with Iran. With Iran. Can we have an ANC funding Hamas rant? Is Ned Bank involved? No ceasefire, case lost. Exactly right. Exactly right. First off, they don't have the authority. This is a preliminary ruling. And in 1 month, we will find out what Israel's response is. Then the court will mull over it. And by then, this thing will finally be over a few months down the road. And this nonsense the African National Congress has put out there will be forgotten at some point. But the damage done to the reputation of Israel, to the harm done to the criminal justice system, the international justice system, is irreparable here. The ANC must somehow justify their expenditure at the ICJ. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Hey, Monray Seabretts, welcome to you. The ANC has painted a bullseye on the country. Here comes sanctions embargoes. Yes, the African National Congress has painted a bullseye on South Africa with its lack of condemnation of Russia's invasion of Ukraine a couple of years ago in 2022. Its actions in receiving a sanctioned by the U.S. and European Union, but not by the UN, Russian defense contractor, the Lady R at Simonstown. Its endless lies and fairy tales about the Lady R, fuck all loaded on that plane. Yeah, remember that. It's obsequiousness. Yeah, they could be, in fact, the Obsidian Order, we could call the ANC. That's really what they are. Andre Sullivan is here. Christine wants to know if anyone did anything about Uganda, Somalia. No, there's nothing being said about that, of course. Connie Riss says, actually, the quotes were not from opposition government, even people from Bibi's own party. Connie, I didn't run through the entire list of all the people who made the idiotic comments. I gave you a partial listing of it. So, yes, you are correct. Members of this government, senior members of the military, in fact, a couple of them, and members of, I think, cabinet member actually made those stupid comments. Brett Sessoms just giving a super chat. So, you are correct, Connie, but I did not run through an enumerated list of all the people who actually said idiotic things and should keep their mouths shut. But you are correct. Dire Straits Boston Edition. Here we go again. Who are we going again with what? Dire Straits? Okay. Yes, ANC will claim victory, just like Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, we won. Yes, we won. We got 17% of the vote in Iowa and spent $40 million for those 18,000 voters to come out in minus 20-degree temperature. We won in Iowa. Meanwhile, Donald Trump won 51% of the vote in a record-setting performance in Iowa. Let's go on to New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, wow, Nikki Haley won, despite the fact that thousands of non-Republicans voted in a Republican primary. Donald Trump still won 54% of the state. Unbelievable. Nikki Haley, yay, we won. Go team, yay. Let's be respectful of criminal alien invaders who violate our sovereignty because they're just people too. They just have families and want to come across the border. Well, so do the people who come here legally and follow our rules and obey. We are not responsible for the planet. People must take care of their own business. Those who want to immigrate here and bring skills and cultural diversity to our society, adding to the kaleidoscope and the panorama that is American culture, are welcome to do so. Sikhs, Igbo, Yoruba, Khoi, San, Afrikaner, Portuguese, Burmese, Kiwi, Maori, Japanese. Not so much on the Chinese. Nothing against the Chinese, but just saying. But all welcome to come here if you follow our rules. That's right. Right. Dire Straits says, here we go again. And then what else we got there? I missed. Connie says, already the Israeli court said they will prosecute against incitement. Correct, Connie. Again, basically what I said is all of these things are things Israel, except for the guarding and the protection of destruction of evidence. I mean, you're going to have to specify what evidence here, the court, and they didn't. So, I mean, this is directly from the court, this ruling. This is not, there's no embellishment here. I didn't make anything up. I didn't offer any social commentary here. This is directly from the court, that ruling. And there's bupkis there. So, what else we got here? Janet Liddy's in from South Carolina. Marilyn Brokenshaw, there you are. Marilyn, I misspoke. I said Leovin yesterday. I was talking about you being a great host. I hadn't seen you for a few days, and I seen your moment there. I was thanking Leovin for being such a great host. She's like, no, you never stayed here. I'm like, yeah, it's Marilyn. That's the great host. So credit where it's due to Marilyn and her family. George Williamson says, hello, welcome. Brett says, court did not rule either way, waste of time. It is a waste of time. Thank you for the super chat, Brett. Do appreciate that. It was a waste of time, except that it fulfilled the ANC's responsibility to some foreign taskmaster so that they get flush with cash to pay their debts and run their evil campaign to retain power in South Africa. Why doesn't the Democratic Alliance lay charge against Malema for incitement to murder, different to hate speech? They should exhaust every avenue. Because they're tilting at windmills, Christine. You're tilting at windmills. The South African criminal justice system is corrupt. It is inept. It is ineffective. And we've seen the nonsense. I mean, look at this now. Julius Malema's cabal of prison suit wearing lunatics, also known as members of the Economic Freedom Fighters, they bum rushed the stage at the State of the Nation address last year in February. They rushed to the stage and basically assaulted the bodyguards of the Republic's president. Now, we may not like Cyril Ramaphosa, but no one has the right to endanger his life or threaten him or create such a spectacle. Now, Julius Malema is claiming that that was free speech. Julius Malema, of course, we know that he and his little cabal of alleged criminals, someone changed the receiver in the firearm that discharged the live round into the air, endangering public safety at an EFF rally years ago. That's a criminal act in and of itself. Why isn't he in jail for that? He's responsible for that. Julius Malema, of course, we know at Senegal called for the killing of the boar because he switched to sing it in English so we would not be mistaken and confused. Standing there at an illegal gathering in Senegal during the lockdown when people weren't allowed to mass in those numbers, the EFF bust in their little cohorts and their gang of Red Berets from Joburg, from Josie, and Pretoria, shipped them down to the remote little farming town of Senegal in the northern Free State, and then proceeded to destroy the town, ripping down street signs that were published in Afrikaans, ripping down rubbish bins, leaving their KFC three-piece streetwise litter all over the streets, and basically acting like fools. Big Daddy Liberty was there on the scene at the time, interviewing some of these clowns, most of them very young, don't know what they're there for. He said, why are you here? Well, against racism. What racism? The whites, I suppose. That's what one of the people said when they're interviewed. Look, it's just idiotic. The world is full of stupid people with low information, and people are very easily influenced by things. It's a shame, it's a tragedy, but it is the world we live in. And this will be the case here. The ANC will take victory laps, no doubt, but they've accomplished nothing here. The only thing that's been accomplished here is that the International Court of Justice has directed the government of Israel to comply with the rules which the government of Israel claims it's complying with. Now they have 30 days to put a case together and submit to the court the measures they've taken. And no doubt those measures will be proven to be exactly, with the exception of this prevent the destruction of evidence, will be exactly what satisfies this. It's possible the court will come back and say, well, we're not satisfied with these actions. You should take the following actions, and then draw it out for a bit more. I think what's going on here with the court is cowardly. This case should have been dismissed out of hand because it has no standing. The case should have been dismissed, but the court, taking the right path, was afraid they would look silly, and so they didn't take it. What the court should have done is they should have said in this ruling, South Africa's case has no standing or merit before this body today. If, however, South Africa will engage legitimately the government of Israel over this purported dispute, and if they're unable to reach terms or a mutual agreement to this dispute that South Africa claims within 30 days, then the ANC can come back to the court and refile this case. That's what they should have done. That's what they should have done. Dismissed it on its merits. Ron is in. Hey, Ron, in from Bloemfontein. Good to see you again. Leilu is here. And then who else we got there? Brett Sessom says, ANC's in bed with Hamas. Yeah, well, of course. We saw them laughing and giggling with them. John Jarvis says, I believe you're correct about the ICJ possibly because that under the Convention of War, civilian hostages should not be taken or any hostages used as a shield. You are correct, Keith. That is correct. That is not allowed. That is a violation of the law of land warfare. You are correct. Hello, Rich. Hello. And Tony Nage. Tony Nage is in from Alberta. The IDF takes all precautions. Yep. The world knows this. Daniel Prinsloo is here. Welcome to you. Jacques Clotte says, see, there is apparently evidence that South Africa banks loaning money from us and other. I have not seen that. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you this right now. we know, and we've known for years, that South Africa is a major funneling conduit for international terrorism. That's why they've been graylisted. We've known that. I knew that for 20 years before they were ever graylisted. Not a state secret. It's also a destination for terrorists to meet, to congregate, and to plot and plan. Now, these terrorists do not commit crimes on South African soil, to my knowledge, but I know that they meet groups from all over the world, nasty, nasty groups of people. South Africa is a convenient place because it's been very lax and generous for letting people come into the country. South Africa is particular a conduit primarily for those who are Islamo-fascist related terrorism, because it has a number of Muslims. Over about 1 million Muslims live in South Africa, none of whom are engaged in terrorism, and none of them should be tainted by that stink. However, because of a large South Asian population and a number of these groups coming from that region, they are easily into South Africa and not noticed. They have a modern banking system that makes it possible to move money about with shell companies and things like that. This is a very easy thing. This is why the IBAN system was created. This is a situation which has been known about for those who know about international finance and know about national security and counterterrorism for decades. In fact, it's a shame that it took so long for South Africa to be graylisted for its actions. So we'll see what happens going forward there. But Nick says, I'm wondering who paid for the case. Well, exactly. Who paid for it? Tehran? The ANC can't pay its staff. The ANC can't pay its debt to Bezuidenhout, 102 million rand, and they get 40 million rand of fines. And somehow that gets settled, boom, after they're nearly liquidated and the sheriff shows up to inventory their property at Lutuli House in Joburg. Funny how that happened. And then they throw this big bash in Nelspruit at Umbumbela Stadium, the empty soccer stadium that rarely has more than 2,000 or 3,000 people show up. They had 40,000+ people show up there, and they paid 20 million rand for that party. And now they have money to fly 40 people to The Hague and stay in ritzy hotels. And where's this money coming from? Well, it's not coming from the tax basis because there's nothing left there. They've pilfered it all. So what else we got there? Hey, Ronaldo, how's it going there? Jaco van Billion, wow, it's good to see you again. It's been a while. I'm wondering who paid for it. I already got that. So Ronaldo said the judges have not ruled on the merits of the genocide allegations, which may take your side. That's correct. You are correct, Ronaldo. This is a preliminary ruling, and it simply requires Israel to follow the rule of law, which Israel claims it's doing. And South Africa has presented no evidence to the contrary. The government of South Africa has presented no evidence that Israel is not complying with the rule of law, international norms, international conventions. They've given no evidence. Tweets are not evidence of that. Civilian casualties are not evidence of that. Let's cover this as we did with Mark Oppenheimer, and I've previously talked about before Mark was on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, as I've told you before, under the law of land warfare, under the Geneva Conventions, people in militaries are not allowed to target civilian targets intentionally. You cannot intentionally target schools, mosques, synagogues, clinics, churches. You can't do that. However, if a combatant uses those facilities for planning or executing operations, they have obviated the protected status of that facility. Nonetheless, the opposing force is still under an obligation, not in treaty or law, but internationally recognized norms of the principle of proportionality, supposed to use as little force and destruction as possible to achieve military goals. So, if you're wondering why the buildings are flattened in Gaza, it's because Hamas is operating inside them and Israel is trying to take them out. Now, frankly, if Israel had about 50,000 special forces, this might have been a much more efficient operation rather than bombing the snot out of Gaza, but they don't have that many to go in and take these guys out. Yes, the EFF should be in trial at the ICC, not the ICJ, the ICC. The International Criminal Court. Frankly, it should be punished in South Africa. Doing news, got a quick dash. Garrett, I'm not sure if I'm going to do news. Do y'all want me to do news? Yes or no? 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 Sloth Puppy says, Colonel, you got it. South Africa has many T groups training, and yep, they do. They do. Yep, and they've had them for years. Ronaldo is giving a link to something. What is that? I don't know where that is. Okay. Compare it to what they got and then see what they won and lost. Well, it's not loading whatever you sent me to. Application. It's 84 pages. Ronald, I can't read 84 pages on air. Come on, man. We're done. Salve. And yes, news. Yes, you guys want news. Okay. 9 provisional measure wanted. Is that what you want? Number 9. Okay. Number 9. South African and Israel are parties to the Genocide Convention. Israel signed the Genocide Convention. Okay, yeah. So they signed the convention. That's, I know what you're talking about, Ronaldo. Sorry. All right, so let me read to you some other stuff that I've come up with here and some notes I've taken. So the International Court of Justice has ordered Israel to take all measures within its power to prevent acts of genocide against Palestinians, a ruling that could have far-reaching consequences, though the court has no power to enforce it. Now, I will tell you that it doesn't have far-reaching consequences. This principle has already been established by the Gambia case against Myanmar 20 years ago. This is already something that's there. So it's no far-reaching consequences here. These are, idiot talking head journalists who don't know anything about international law. They have no military experience. They've never been involved in courts, and they're running their mouths doing analysis. NBC News, I listened to an idiot journalist on there earlier talking about how this is far-reaching. The impact of this is incredible, and this is grave consequences for Israel. No, it isn't. That's lunacy. That's your anti-Semitism, your hatred of Israel that's coloring your objectivity. This is not good for Israel, but it's also not tragic or bad. This case shouldn't have gone forward. The United Nations top court stopped short of ordering a ceasefire requested by South Africa while it hears the full case against Israel. The U.S. and Israel have dismissed the accusations, but so has Germany. That's incomplete reporting. Germany and many other countries also dismissed these ludicrous findings. The bottom line here is that the court did not demand that Israel cease fire, which by its own inaction has affirmed Israel's right to self-defense, which is in the United Nations Charter. Therefore, Israel is perfectly obliged, as we said, regardless of what the court came up with. But that's what analysis is. That's genuine objective analysis. The news media are ignoring the fact that the court, they mention the ceasefire, not ordering a ceasefire, but they don't tell you the significance of it. The significance of it is the fact that the court has not addressed an order to ceasefire means that they recognize the sovereignty of Israel and its right to self-defense, and recognize that what Israel is doing in Gaza is, in fact, self-defense, acting in self-defense. Now, again, had they ordered a ceasefire, big whoop. There's no enforcement authority. Who's going to go? The UN police? No such thing exists. I've worked with UN flag police, but they're not UN. They come from countries. Now, here's the thing. This decision was not about whether Israel was committing genocide today. And here's the other important thing. This preliminary ruling, and this is why this preliminary ruling is possible, it requires a very low evidentiary threshold. To achieve what has been achieved today, South Africa got away with it by using mean tweets and newspaper reports, which aren't evidence, and presenting that as if that is evidence. Now, that would not stand up in a court of law here in the United States, any court of law, except one that has a case against Donald Trump, apparently. But going forward, in order to prove its ludicrous allegation of genocide, South Africa must produce genuine evidence. It's a very high threshold. But again, that is very far down the road. This case will not be decided anytime soon, unless it's dismissed. Yep. So basically, the provisional measure is South Africa asked for the ICJ to condemn Israel for genocide and to stop a genocide and stop their attacks, none of which came. None of which came. Yep. Now, the court asserts that these findings are binding. Go ahead and enforce them. Now, the court also noted today that the provisional measures need not be identical to those requested by South Africa. So the things that South Africa asked for isn't necessarily what the court is going to come up with, because it's up to the court to decide. Yeah. So now it's interesting that the provisional measures here, most of them were supported by the ad hoc Israeli judge. So Aaron Barak only objected to, 3 of the 5 measures. He objected to the first one, which was refrain from acts under Genocide Convention. He objected to the prevent destruction of evidence, and he objected to submitting a report. Now, no doubt, the reason he objected to the first 2 is because it's an affront to Israel's sovereignty. Israel is not committing acts of genocide, and so Israel is offended by that and aggrieved. So that's probably why he objected. On the evidence, the production or the preservation of evidence, that's insulting to Israel because there's no crime that's being charged here. So that's probably why. And the final one here, objecting to report, because he's probably thinking, why does Israel have to submit a report when it's done nothing wrong? I'm just guessing and surmising that's the reasons why Aaron Barak. But Aaron Barak did not object to the judgment in total. So that is interesting to note there. So Germany's stance is crucial. It is. If they were clever, they would have included page 88. Okay? Untag in Angola. There you go. I appreciate the news, Colonel, but I understand if you're occupied. Thank you, Nick. Fred B. Kevin says, is the main win not that the case is now going forward? Israel won a case. No, the case is not going forward. All right? Let's be very clear about this, okay? The court will take no action pending this report that they've demanded from Israel. Israel will give the report to the International Court of Justice in 30 days, and then the court will mull over it and review it. If they then continue, then the case is going forward. So for journalists to tell you today that the case continues and goes forward, that's simply inaccurate and misleading. The court can dismiss this at any time, and based on what Israel provides, what information, what evidence they support in their case, if they've addressed it. Now, I will tell you that I think it's likely that this court will find a pretext to continue the case and draw it out. And then by the time that they finally reach a conclusion in 8 months or 18 months, this conflict will be done and dusted. That's what I suspect will happen here. But again, the case should never have gone forward. But given world opinion, I think that the court is cowardly, and that the reason they did this is they're afraid that the streets of Cairo, the streets of Baghdad, the streets of Beirut, the streets of all over the world would be inflamed with riots and people would die, because these people are low information voters who would go out and do that, but there are millions of them and cause chaos, and they're trying to avoid further spreading of the conflict. I suspect that's what's going on with the court. Ramaphosa is on live now. What's he saying? Let me go to that. Thank you for that. Let me find that. So, okay, let's see if he's on right now. Okay, here we go. I promise here. Well, that's an ad. I got an ad here. Yeah, I'll get Ramaphosa up here in a second, folks. I've got all the headlines. I was going to bring that up, so let's get Ramaphosa over here. Give me a second. Thank you for the heads up. I didn't know Ramaphosa would be speaking today. We don't usually like to listen to him. He's a buffoon.
Other countries. Others have said it was not our place. And yet it is very much our place.
No, it's not.
As a people who know too well the pain of dispossession,
you don't know the pain of dispossession.
State-sponsored violence.
Yeah.
We are also a people who were the victims of the crime of apartheid. We know what apartheid looks like.
Do you?
We experienced and lived through it.
Did you?
Sadly, many people died and were exiled.
Not nearly as many dies
like
every
our
year.
Beloved leader Oliver Tambo and many others. Others were jailed, like the father of our democracy, Nelson Mandela, and many others.
Listen to him invoking real people.
That, for us, was the face of apartheid. We as South Africans will not be passive bystanders and watch the crimes that were visited upon us being perpetrated upon other people elsewhere.
You watch it in South Africa.
We stand on the side of freedom for all.
No, you
We
don't.
stand on the side of justice.
No, you don't. You know what justice is.
30 years ago, following our first democratic elections, President Nelson Mandela declared, "Let there be justice for all. Let there be peace for all.
Yeah.
Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another."
Tell that to the 700,000 murdered South Africans since you took
And
control.
so we say again today, never, never, and never again shall it be that acts of genocide are perpetrated with impunity as we, the international community, look on. We firmly believe that following this judgment, there should now be a more concerted effort towards a ceasefire, and negotiations should commence
It's
on
not
a
what the court
permanent
ordered.
two-state solution
Pala pala.
for enabling Israel
Pala pala.
and Palestine to live side by side
They don't want that.
as independent
Palestinians
states.
don't want that. It's been offered over and over
Palestinians
again.
having attained their self-determination.
They don't want self-determination.
As
They
South
want
Africa, we
extermination.
thank all in the international community, and there have been millions of people around the world who have supported our application, including a number of countries who have declared their intention to be part of our application.
Loser
to the
countries
International
full of
Court
racial
Justice.
hatred.
We will not waver in our commitment to the Palestinian people and their quest for self-determination. Our own painful history obliges us to do no less. We thank the International Court of Justice for upholding its role of achieving justice, promoting peace, preventing genocide, and holding those responsible for genocide to be accountable.
The Mumpar of the Year.
It is our earnest hope and wish that this court order paves the way for an end
Can't
to
even
this
read a
crisis
script. Can't even read a
and
script.
this painful experience that Palestinians are going through. And we hope for an end to the terrible loss of life and hardship, and for the crucial first steps to be taken towards reconciliation
In Ukraine. Wait, oh,
and
you mean
a
in Gaza?
just, lasting peace.
In Ukraine?
Lastly, I'd like to extend my gratitude to our lawyers, the lawyers who presented our case to the International Court,
Yeah.
and of course, a gratitude to our Minister of Justice and
This is
Constitutional
ludicrous.
Affairs,
Absolutely ludicrous.
and also our Minister of International Relations, who is currently at The Hague.
Not Lady Pandor. Job of the Hut.
Thank you.
Are you done? Oh, good God, he's done. That's it. Let's see what. Okay, he's done. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was absolutely ridiculous. The bogus president of South Africa, that would be none other than Cyril Palapala Ramaphosa, just spoke on this situation, and his lunacy is beyond comparison. Unbelievable, the garbage that spewed out of his mouth. First off, he talks about South Africa as if South Africa is only comprised of black South Africans, not 63 million people who live in South Africa, which includes a diverse kaleidoscope of skin pigmentation, hues, and origin. But no, that is not the world that he lives in. Remember, once upon a time, several speeches, he said, for our 50 million South Africans. Well, that only includes blacks and a few others. So, no, this guy is ludicrous. Everything he just said there is comical. First off, it is an abomination for Cyril Ramaphosa to claim that apartheid was genocide. It's not genocide. I don't care what any fake court decides. There was no intentional effort to eliminate, destroy black South Africans. There was an intentional effort to oppress and deprive of civil liberties and equal opportunity in the economic sphere, no doubt about it. Those are true. You can argue crimes against humanity. You can argue that. But there is no case, there was never genocide. And, oh, by the way, there is no such thing as apartheid in Israel. And Israel is not running Gaza. You see the conflation of terms? Where does apartheid come in here? Israel's not committing genocide not committing apartheid in Gaza. It doesn't control Gaza. You cannot run a policy of separate development when you do not govern a space. That would be like me saying, you know what? In Limpopo, white people and black people cannot be married. I have no sovereignty there. I have no enforcement ability to come up with such an idiotic decision. Israel is not committing apartheid in Gaza. The mere mention of this and the falling back on this dead Carl Nyhorst nag of a friggin' beast. Apartheid, apartheid, apartheid. There is no apartheid here. There is no separate development here. There is no racial exclusion taking place here in Gaza. Gaza is run by Hamas since 2005. Israel pulled out. They do not live or occupy in Gaza. In fact, what the international community refuses to acknowledge is that Israel, through its good graces, provides electricity, water to Gaza. They don't have to do that. They're under no obligation to provide electricity or power to another state, but they do it. This is ludicrous. And then genocide. We know all too well the pain of genocide. We know all too well. You don't know genocide. You don't know genocide, you disgraceful hump. Munir Palapala, you know genocide. The Jews know genocide. The Sinti know genocide. The Romani know genocide. Slavs know genocide. Europeans know genocide. And of course, Jews know genocide and have all been victims of efforts. The Rohingya know genocide. The apartheid government of South Africa, for all of its abominations, never, ever, ever attempted to eliminate any group, cultural group in South Africa. That's just ludicrous. But they use the magic words that the low information voters, the idiots, understand. And they go with that. That's the bottom line here. This is pathetic. This is pathetic. And what's even sadder is the millions of people that will listen to this bonehead who couldn't even read his script. He couldn't even rehearse a 10-minute script. He reads it and stumbles over it because he doesn't know what it says. Because Munir Palapala is not bright enough to write that speech. Now, I know that politicians the world over have speech writers, but they often either write the things themselves or contribute heavily to it. I seriously doubt that Munir Palapala has picked up a pen or hit a keyboard anytime recently. Too busy collecting his Big Mac dollars. Shane Mitchell says, when we think of the 500 people dying, it's not 500, it's 82, Shane, but thank you. I do appreciate it. Or 5,000, yeah. Now, you're embellishing a little bit, Shane, but I appreciate the sentiment. 82 people on average are being killed in South Africa today. Let's just give you the statistics, folks. 23,000 murders last year. The United States had 14,000 murders. And the South African government loves to attack America for its gun violence. Ladies and gentlemen, more people died by guns last year in South Africa than the United States. We have a country that is over 6 times larger than South Africa. Yeah. So, I think they need to look in the mirror. Gee, obese, roly-poly dumbox. Spike says, Cyril asked if they can leave him alone now. Yeah, let me go back to my Big Macs. Please take this buffoon off the screen. He's gone. Hendrik LaRue, we learned the ABCs he grew up with. AP. Yeah, exactly. APARTEID. LMNOPXYZ. They planted bombs. Yes, they did. They also necklaced innocent civilians. There was never apartheid here either. There was only a group from 32nd Battalion that went on a tangent. I know many of those players. Don't understand exactly what you're saying there, Christine. The bottom line for me, who do they think they are? Who gave them the authority? No one. Shireen says only one word they know, apartheid. Blame everybody for that. Yeah, maybe. Scientist says maybe use Chat GPT. No, scientist, if he used Chat GPT, it would have called him out. This is incorrect. There was no genocide in South Africa. There was racial oppression and perhaps crimes against humanity, but there was no genocide under the Genocide Convention in South Africa. Your equation of genocide in South Africa to the conflict in Gaza is invalid. Deborah Olivier says, I couldn't use his keyboard because someone stole. Who stole my laptop? My laptop was here with my iPad. Who stole my iPad? So a timeline cast on Rama repeating the same speeches. Yeah, exactly. Battalion 30. Yeah, I know the Buffalo Battalion. I'm familiar with who they are. Yeah, anyway, so there you have it, folks. Now, the bottom line here, once again, for those who are tuning in late to this broadcast, this is a summation and an analysis of what occurred today. The International Court of Justice rendered a preliminary ruling which had 5 outcomes, and there were 17 votes on each of these outcomes for the 15 judges and the 2 ad hoc judges. And the results were, number 1, the court directed that Israel refrain from acts under the Genocide Convention, noting, of course, that Israel is a signatory to the Genocide Convention. That's a nothing burger, as Hillary Clinton would like to say. Israel is not committing acts of genocide, and they are adhering to the convention, so that really means nothing. Number 2, that they prevent and punish incitement to genocide. Well, that's something that South Africa should actually take to heart. Julius Malema incites genocide and the murder of white people, and he's actually even said that he plans to do in the future. So are you calling for the murder of white South Africans? Not at the moment. That's just something like that he said years ago. He's a member of parliament, The so-called evidence which the ANC took the International Court of Justice against Israel included public comments by officials in government. If that is the evidence that's necessary to prove genocide, then Julius Malema, by his own admission in court, cross-examined by constitutional law advocate Mark Oppenheimer admitted that he's calling for genocide. That's essentially what he said. His public statements are all over the place. He's been recorded in Parliament saying these things. He's been recorded on the radio, on television. There is your evidence. This is a member of Parliament who's calling for the genocide of white South Africans. So the South African government needs to look very hard in the mirror about this ruling that came from the court. The number 3 thing was take effective measures to allow humanitarian assistance. Of course, we know that Israel has done this. We've seen the convoys going in. We've seen video evidence of it. Now, the question is effective. What is effective? And what is effective? And take immediate. Israel's already taken immediate. When Israel turns its report back into the ICJ within 30 days, I'm sure that they will point out that this was a unnecessary admonition because there's no need for Israel to take immediate and effective action to allow humanitarian assistance into Gaza because it had already been doing that since the inception of the conflict. That will be the case, Israel will argue. They'll be able to show the number of convoys that have gone in, the short tons of aid that's been delivered, yada, 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 yada. So nothing will come of that either. And then number 4 was to take effective measures against the destruction of evidence. What evidence? Evidence of what? That's not clear here. It doesn't say specifically. And finally, that they submit a report to the court within 30 days, which Israel will do. Now, if Israel fails to do that, they're going to come under widespread criticism. What I see here is an opportunity for the government of Israel to put the facts on the table once again. Again, for the lazy journalist and the uninformed analyst who are out there now saying that the case is going forward, that is factually incorrect. That is a partial true statement. In other words, it's a lie. What is happening now is the court will wait for this report from Israel to answer the questions that the court has asked of Israel. Israel will present the evidence in the report that they are not doing the things that are here, and also they are taking the steps that are required by the court. And then the court will mull it over and make a decision as to continue or to stop the case. But there is no evidence of genocide presented by South Africa that has any evidentiary value whatsoever. Bear in mind, folks, that this hearing, this preliminary ruling, requires a much lower threshold of evidence. The evidentiary threshold is much lower for this than it would be in a formal case. This isn't the actual case. That's also being overlooked by the pontificators, the mainstream legacy media, and a lot of social media clowns are out there. This is not actually the case. This is a preliminary portion of it's not like they're having a trial. All right. This is kind of akin to a grand jury hearing, except that both sides got to present their case. In a grand jury hearing, only the state presents its case. The target of the grand jury doesn't get to defend itself. But in this case, Israel gets to present its case, and the court decides what to do for it. So it's a preliminary ruling, and none of it actually. So, excuse me. The most important part about all of this is 2 things. The court did not say that Israel is committing genocide, and number 2, the court did not order did not order Israel to cease fire, to stop its attacks again in retaliation. By default, that means that the court recognizes, number 1, that Israel is a sovereign state, and number 2, that Israel is acting in self-defense. If they didn't believe that, then they would have issued an order here for a ceasefire. Now, it's not impossible that after 30 days, the court gets a report from Israel. They read through it, they review it, and then they come back and say, now you must have a ceasefire. You're not meeting the standard. But they didn't do that today. So I think what's going to happen is Israel has a grand opportunity to expose South Africa. But to listen to that bonehead, Cyril Ramaphosa, Mr. Pala Pala, where's the $580,000, Cyril? Where's the customs form, Cyril? Where is the declaration of currency, Cyril? Please share that with us. Another tainted ANC official. This one's the president of the republic. You know, the merits of the Pala Pala case are stronger than any of the cases against Donald Trump, including the classified documents case. Think about that. Donald Trump is being persecuted. They're trying to prevent him from becoming president of America. And they are doing it such weak evidence, yet we have more solid, clear evidence of perversion of justice, the misuse of state resources, the false use or the illegal importation of currency, and a fake sale fabricated after the fact. The fact that they tried to come up with a sale of prize buffalo to the Sudanese businessmen after they were caught is further criminal activity on the part of the Pala Pala conspirators. Yeah, that guy has no credibility whatsoever, and his disgraceful misuse of apartheid and disgraceful misuse of the Genocide Convention to get his money. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, just a moment here. I'm getting a call. Yes. Hello. Yes, indeed. Yeah, this is Colonel Wyatt. Yeah. No. I'm not part of the South African team. No, I'm not in The Hague. I'm in the States. Oh, you were told to call me. Okay, let me write this down. Is this a number? Okay. Hang on a second. Hang on. I got my pen here. Okay. What's the IBAN? Okay. Did you say, I'm sorry, your accent's pretty strong. Oh, you're from Tehran. Okay. Yeah, no, look, I mean, you guys usually have pretty good accent. Okay, so is that a 6? Oh, a 6. Okay. All right. And which name? Oh, African National Congress. Okay. How much? Are you serious? Wow. Now, you do realize you called the wrong person, right? Okay. Yeah. No, I'll let Cyril know. Okay. Thanks a lot. L'chaim. Folks, that was Tehran. That was the Islamic government of Tehran calling me. And they gave me the IBAN, the number, for the money being deposited in the African National Congress's bank account at this very moment. Woo! That's comedy, folks, for those who don't get that. That's not a claim. Anyway, wow. Hamas sent a video of 3 hostages. Yeah, they did that previously. One of them supposedly is dead now. Was it dealt with the TRC? I'm not going to speak. Patrick Vianello is here. Welcome to you. Paul Storm. Welcome, Paul. Paul Faree was Kotfoot. Okay. Prime Minister is busy with his take in the IC. Is he? Okay. It's up to us. It's up. What's this? Cyril must be worst president ever. Yeah, no doubt about it. I thought Joe Biden was bad, but Cyril Ramaphosa is really bad. Really, really bad. Shannon Dickens gets it. Yeah, that was Tehran calling for the ANC. They got my number by mistake. You know, people do that. They must have got off a Telegram group or WhatsApp. I don't know. New video just now reported. Is it live? Okay. Nick is laughing about that. Yeah, so let's see. But here are some of the headlines about the case that come up in the last hour or so here, folks. So let me go ahead and get this up on the screen for you. If Israel does not comply, it will be setting a terrible precedent, says Jabba the Hutt. Jabba the Hutt. Yeah. So, ICJ genocide hearing. Israel ordered to take immediate and effective measures to prevent incitement of genocide. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Yasmin Jacobs. Doesn't mean anything. The Al Jazeera. ICJ orders Israel to take measures to prevent. ICJ ruling places Israel in a very difficult position, according to a lawyer. Jeffrey Nice, a leftist British human rights lawyer, said the order places Israel in a very difficult position. Nice, who was the lead prosecutor in the Slobodan Milosevic trial at the International Tribunal, the ICC, pointed out that a complete refusal to comply with the orders that have been given will draw hatred from all sorts of places and add to what may seem to be a public sentiment that favors Palestinians. Well, I just said that. I'm not a learned human rights lawyer. I just said the same thing. Israel will submit a report, otherwise they'll get condemnation. He also told Al Jazeera that by bringing the case to the ICJ, South Africa did something that only one other country has ever done, referring to the Gambia, which launched a lawsuit against Myanmar for a genocide against the Rohingya. And by the way, has the genocide against Rohingya ended? No, it's actually been stepped up under the military junta for the past 2 years. So the ICJ has no authority and enforcement. Yep. What South Africa was showing without spelling it out is we've done something that you, the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and every other country that has power of Israel should have been doing. Excuse me? These countries have power over Israel? I'm sorry. Are you familiar with sovereignty, you moron? Mr. Nice, Mr. Dingbat. You ever heard of state sovereignty? Good Lord. The only authority U.S. has over South of Israel is we could stop the $3.4 billion in military assistance we send them every year. That's the only authority we have over them. Israel would survive without that money. But if we did that, by law, we'd have to stop the $800 million in annual military assistance we give to Egypt as part of the Camp David Accords agreement. So, yeah, and the $2 billion plus we give to Egypt, including $1.2 billion annually, more than that now for economic aid. So, yeah, we'd have to stop that. So, here's a wrap-up what Munir Palapala said a few minutes ago. He said, we expect Israel to abide by the World Court's verdict. I expect you to shut up, sit down, go home, eat your Big Macs, and stop lying to the world. We firmly believe that following the ICJ judgment, there should be more concerted efforts on the ceasefire. Well, there was no concerted effort here, you moron. Munir Palapala, did you not hear? Did you not read? Are you not capable of understanding modern standard written English? You are the President of a republic whose official language is English. You stop putting out documents that offer cons, by and large. It's almost all in English. As the head of that republic, you should be able to understand that language. So there has been no effort at a ceasefire by the ICJ here. They did not order a ceasefire. You are a dingbat doorknob, Cyril Ramaphosa. And he said South Africans will not be passive bystanders while crimes are perpetrated upon other people elsewhere. Well, perhaps, but you'll stand by and be an innocent bystander, a silent bystander, while South Africans are murdered in their homes each and every day. One of our viewers' uncle was brutally assaulted and set on fire just a few days ago. 82 South Africans murdered every day. Broad daylight, people driving up and shooting people. Tourists under attack during the taxi strike. A physician murdered, a noted physician from the UK murdered in a rental car with his family present. An American PhD from Cornell University shot in the mouth in a car robbery in the Cape Flats. This is a place where people murdered, drug people out of cars and stoned them to death because they were white. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you have no moral high ground to stand on. You do sit by silently while people are murdered and butchered every single frickin' day, Mini or Pala. Unbelievable. Okay, now this is funny. The ICJ order is clear. Scotland's Humza Yousaf. Humza Yousaf. Well, that sounds like a good Highlander name. Humza Yousaf. Yes, clearly grew up in the glens of Scotland. Way up there in the mountains. I'm sure he knew Sean Connery when he was a boy, growing up there in the Western Argyll Islands. Humza Yousaf. Scottish leader Humza Yousaf has reacted to the court's ruling, saying that the killing and destruction in Gaza must stop. Urgent humanitarian assistance must be provided to prevent more suffering. It's being done. Stop lying. Hostages must be released. Oh, well, good on you, Humza Yousaf. Thank you for saying that. With such death and destruction, we'll continue to call for immediate ceasefire. Yes, which will lead to the death of many more Israeli citizens and international tourists. Iran congratulates South Africa. There it is, folks. There it is. We found it. Here it is. Iran has congratulated South Africa on their success. There you go. There's what you need. There's your proof right there. There's your evidence of collusion right there. The Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian has congratulated South Africa and the Palestinian people on success at the ICJ. Today, the officials of the fake Israeli regime are the most hated people in the world's public opinion, who must be brought to justice immediately for committing genocide and unprecedented war crimes against Palestinians, he wrote on Twitter. I must emphasize that the White House's all-around support for the crimes of the Zionists will never be forgotten and is considered and followed up by public opinion. I ask all my counterparts in countries around the world to support South Africa's move in the International Court of Justice. And there you have it, folks. If you're wondering what South Africa was up to, what the ANC was up to, there you go. A pat on the back from their paymasters in Tehran. Israel, what is Israel's response? Okay, I missed something there. Israel won't post a video on the news looking for it. Yeah, I don't think you're going to find a video. Isn't there a law that if you ask Americans if they're CIA, it's illegal to deny it? What? Where do you just make nonsense like that? That's ludicrous. I know people who openly have worked for the CIA. Buck Sexton worked for the CIA. Come on, man. Israel's response is the same as in the movie Wolf of Wall Street. I didn't see that. A lady was killed and hijacked just up the road a few days ago. Exactly. Our government just spent huge money on a show that should be SABC soap. Exactly. Why is it so easy for the ANC to run to the ICJ when crap hits the fan in other countries? Where do the people... Ladies and gentlemen, where is South Africa on the genocide of the Rohingya? Why is it only when their fellow terrorists, fellow travelers, whom they associated with during their struggle, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, they were pals with them. Why is it when the offspring of that, Hamas, is in the docket? Why is it then that South Africa chooses to intervene? Where was South Africa when the government of Myanmar was murdering the Rohingya? Gambia courageously stepped forward 2 decades ago. South Africa's been silent for 2 decades. Iran is silent on what's happening to Rohingya. Can you not see the hypocrisy of what's going on here? These are people of color being murdered because of their religion and their ethnicity. What about the Uyghurs, Muslims in China, being murdered? The Iranians are Muslims. Where is their condemnation of China for any allegations of genocide? Why has Iran and South Africa, why have they not taken a court case to the International Court of Justice proclaiming genocide being committed by the Chinese communists and by the military junta in Myanmar. Why? Because there's no merit to this. This is selective outrage. Selective outrage. Utter nonsense. Wow. A landmark decision puts Israel and its allies on notice, says Human Rights Watch. Human Rights Watch is a corrupt, captured, illegitimate body that was silent on the murder of farmers in Zimbabwe, allowing the corrupt kleptocracy of Zimbabwe to get away with human rights abuses. They are largely silent on human rights abuses that continue under the corrupt government of Zimbabwe today. They are selective in their outrage. They're angry that the United States has states that have the death penalty, but they have no problem with what happens in Cuba. Balkis Jarrah, Associate International Justice Director at Human Rights Watch, describes the ICJ's ruling as a landmark decision that puts Israel and its allies on notice that immediate action is needed to prevent genocide and further atrocities against the people of Gaza. Lives hang in the balance, and governments need to urgently use their leverage to ensure that the order is enforced. The scale and gravity of civilian suffering in Gaza, driven by Israeli war crimes, demands nothing less. Balkis Jarrah is an uninformed, bigoted moron. I don't know who he is, but he's a clear moron. Clear moron. What war crimes? What war crimes? By the way, there were no war crimes accused in South Africa's ludicrous case before the ICJ. They didn't accuse them of war crimes. They accused them of violating the Genocide Convention. Genocide can occur without a war. There's no war in China. They're committing genocide against the Uyghurs. There is a war in Myanmar, but before there was a war, they were committing genocide against the Rohingya. So you don't need a war. So there are no war crimes here, moron. These people toss these words around, these illiterate, or these luminaries, these intelligent PhDs who got it from their indoctrination centers like Harvard, Yale, Penn, and all these other loser schools. These idiots throw words like apartheid and genocide and war crimes around because the uninformed don't know better. They've alleged no war crimes here. They've alleged a violation of the Genocide Convention, and they didn't prove it. And the actions of the court, first off, have no authority or weight, so Israel could ignore them. That would be foolish of them to do it for international opinion, but they could ignore it. And what are they going to do? Well, you violated our order, so now we're going to make another order. I mean, it's like Iraq. 17 UN sanctions resolutions against Iraq for its crimes against its own people. And yet it continued under Saddam Hussein. These things simply allow the criminals more time to come up with more criminal racketeering enterprises like the oil for food. Iraq selling billions of dollars of oil, putting it in the pockets of Kofi Annan's son and other corrupt UN-related officials so that Iraq could sell oil and fund its oppressive regime. The ICJ's speedy ruling is recognition of the dire situation in Gaza, where civilians face starvation or are being killed daily at levels unprecedented in the recent history of Israel and Palestine. The ICJ's speedy ruling, I'm sorry, it's been what, 2 weeks since the case was heard? That's not speedy. Speedy would be in 24 hours. Do you see the misuse of the English language by these frauds? Jarrah also noted the court's clear and binding orders raise the stakes for Israel's allies to back up their stated commitment to a global rules-based order by helping ensure compliance with this watershed ruling. It's not a watershed ruling. The watershed ruling was Gambia 20 years ago. This is not a watershed ruling. This is just garbage. This is like Nikki Haley calling victory, declaring she's a winner. This is not a watershed. This is garbage. Total, complete, utter nonsense. These people get a stage. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Raising the stakes. Clear and binding. They're not binding. Of course it's clear. Sure it's clear. Israel must uphold its commitment to the Convention on Genocide. They're doing that. Prevent and punish incitement of genocide. I don't know that they're doing that. I don't know that there's a case for them to do it. The members of the IDF who made videos, which I said at the time, celebrating the actions in Gaza should be disciplined and punished. I've said that from the very beginning. That is not an appropriate action from a uniformed military member. That is not your role. So I don't know the answer on that one. Take effective measures to allow humanitarian assistance. Already done. Done and dusted. Take effective measures to prevent destruction of evidence. What evidence? Of what crime? It's not clear. The court doesn't specify this. It says related to allegations of acts. Well, the allegations have no merit. I could say that the members of the court are all donkeys and sleep with sheep. Can I see your phone? Can I see your PC? Can I see the books you have in your home? You must preserve everything that you have because you might actually be sleeping with sheep. We can't prove that. So, I mean, this is just ludicrous. And then submit a report. Well, that's not binding, and it's not something that the court can force Israel to do. Israel, in its best interest, should do it. They absolutely should do it. They should do it. I mean, it would be foolish of them not to do it. Paul says, there's no way Chris he sounds like nothing like the teleprompter when Bill Burr speaks. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, where does that come from? Look, I see a couple people mentioned in here, and I'm not targeting any of those people, but I mean, it takes a special kind of idiot to dream that stuff up. I've been censored and my channel shut down. If I worked for the CIA, would the CIA take the time to create such an elaborate scheme to stop one single person sitting in central Pennsylvania using free speech, criticizing the U.S. government for its corona response, criticizing the U.S. government for its foreign policy, criticizing his own military where he spent 36 years? There's demonstrative proof of that all over the planet. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have seen me in uniform, know who I am, and have seen me. You know, would the CIA cook up such an elaborate scheme? To what end? For 108 people to be watching? It's 100 now. Or 100 people to watch it? For a channel that got to 23,000 and got suppressed and shut down for 2 years? Do you really think if I was backed by the CIA, I would have 14,200 subscribers? More like 1.4 million, don't you think? People are just ludicrous. People believe any bull nonsense that comes out of the mouth of people who are just idiots. The law still stands. What law? What law? The IRA was huge. Yes, that's not a little known fact, Christine. That's not a little known fact. In fact, you know, we're well aware of the IRA. They also got training camps in Libya. Yeah, Muammar Gaddafi was a big supporter of the IRA. So was the PLO. Yeah, no, and the ANC was definitely. They're traveling. They're like the traveling Wilburys. They travel together. Yep. All right. So what else have I missed here? Sell cigarettes. Okay. Media's lying. Either a tie or Israel won the court ruling. In my view, Israel won. What if Israel just ignores the ruling? Well, scientists, it's a very good question. You asked the most apropos question. What if Israel ignores this ruling? They do so at their own peril. Not from the court, which has no enforcement authority. They do so at their own peril of condemnation. We already see this idiot Jarrah and these other fools out there, Mr. Nice, claiming all this nonsense. This is a speedy ruling. It's not a speedy ruling. What do you consider speeding? I mean, if people are so urgent, first off, it wasn't an urgent case. South Africa manufactured a pretext in order to take this case to the International Court of Justice. It wasn't urgent. The combat started in late October, and all of November, all of December, they finally gave a letter to the Israeli embassy after everyone went home for the holidays, telling them to respond. And then they went home themselves and did respond. And then they went to the ICJ claiming that this is urgent because they fabricated an urgent case. So that's just nonsense. There's no speedy involved here. No speedy. This is all to destroy the existing world order. You notice how Mr. Jarrah, this moron from Human Rights Watch, calls out the United States, Germany, and other countries. You're a disgrace. The Genocide Convention was drafted to prevent genocide. It doesn't. It doesn't. Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge murdered millions of Cambodians. The Chinese murdered 30 million Chinese, the communists, during the Cultural Revolution. The Chinese communists today are committing genocide against the Rohingya. Myanmar, against the Uyghurs. The Myanmar government is committing genocide against... Oh, sorry, I saw the breaking news came up over here. Just tell me what we already know. The Myanmar government is committing genocide against the Rohingya. The government of Rwanda committed genocide against its own citizens. The Genocide Convention didn't prevent any of these things from happening. What is happening in Gaza is not genocide. You might consider it a crime against humanity, and you could make an argument for that. You won't win because it's not, but it's not genocide. It is not genocide. It's ludicrous. Where were the Muslim outrage against killings in Yemen and Syria by the fellow Muslims? Where is the Muslim outrage about Iran firing missiles into Syria and into Iraq, and then firing missiles into Pakistan last week? Silence from the Muslim world. Total silence. Total silence. Yep. Anti-Native Commission. There you go. There you go. All right. So what about fuel rods after? So what are we talking about, Spiker Hunt? What fuel rods? Yes, Garrett. Thank you. The Holodomor that took place in Ukraine. But I think that even that is something that could be argued wasn't a genocide. It was certainly a crime against humanity. The problem with that is that there wasn't an effort. Well, you can say genocide because in part. So yes, you could have called it a genocide. That's right. ANC was a big supporter of East Germany. Oh, of course, the German Democratic Republic, which wasn't democratic, and it certainly wasn't a republic. Israel just wants the... Israel just wants to exist. The ANC and Hamas want to exterminate Jews in the Middle East. Yeah, they do. They do. Yep. So more updates on the screen here. Let me bring those up now real quick. So the ICJ orders Israel. This is from a Israeli newspaper to take all measures to prevent genocide. Does not order ceasefire. Yep. Egypt says it's looking forward to the ICJ demand for immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Well, it didn't happen. Didn't happen. Looking forward to International Court of Justice demanding immediate ceasefire. Well, it didn't happen. Sorry to disappoint you there, Egypt. Never happened. Brett, thanks for the $10 super chat. Michael Holmes, did I ban you? What kind of question is that? Why would I ban you, Michael? And I can't see you. I can see you. I don't see any other chats coming through, Michael. Did you have a question? Hey, Paul, what's going on? Paul Ferreira's here. Good to see you, Paul. Why would I ban you? What are you talking about, man? What's going on there with you? Hey, Bernard, welcome. Yeah, the 1930s. That's what I'm talking about. The Holodomor. That's what the Holodomor was. Yes. If you want to read how tragic it was, read Murder by Starvation. And there's Brett's super chat. That's a bigger one, so I'll give him a little bell on that one. Last one, I can give him a bell. Yeah, thank you, Brett. That will push me over last month's revenue total. Just that your two super chats push me over even after YouTube takes their cut. Paul Ferreira, it's good to see you there, Paul. Been a while. Absolutely. No, Michael, I didn't ban you. Why would I ban you? I have no reason to ban you on this channel. The only people who get banned on this channel are people who are racist and bigots openly, who come out. I mean, you might be a racist and bigot, but you keep it yourself, and so we're not going to take action against somebody for their views. However, if you spew that sort of thing in the chat, you will be punished initially. And if it continues, then you get the boot. So that's just the nature of things. Only a handful of people who are genuine have actually been booed on here. One of whom is Victoria Conti because of her disruptive behavior. She denies it and lies about it on Ronaldo's channel. But Victoria was on this channel and she watched and she constantly carped at other people in the chat and she misled and she was always trying to disrupt the broadcast. So she got banned. Christian Paradago, whatever clown that guy is. But these people were tolerated for a long time. Michael, there's no reason to ban you. I mean, your worldviews really need some reorient. You need to be degaussed and recentered because the things that you ask about that you seem to believe in are just off the charts, bat crap, crazy. I'm not attacking you, Michael. Just saying that the things that every argument you've brought to me, none of them have had any merit. Again, not an attack on Michael. And I welcome them. It gives me a chance to debunk and pick apart the things that Michael is saying. But you're not banned on this channel, Michael. You're welcome to be here. I'm happy to see you here. There he is. Okay. So, also wondering if that will feed into red meat inflation locally. One of these days it'll be lentils for me. Okay. Michael says, I told you, Chris, South Africa won. Israel had a terrible case and was unprepared. For me, Mark Oppenheimer is more a politician than a lawyer. His predictions were terrible. What predictions did he make? He didn't predict that the case will be dismissed. He didn't predict that. What prediction? Okay, so Michael, I'm going to put you on the spot here. What predictions did Mark Oppenheimer make that were wrong? What predictions? He said he wasn't going to make predictions. That's what he said. So I'm not really sure what predictions you're talking about there. And Mark Oppenheimer is not a politician. He is a lawyer, and he appears in court in front of the Supreme Court of Appeals, the Constitutional Court, and many courts, and he presents cases. If you actually watch the footage of his cases, which were broadcast online, then you wouldn't make that argument. If you're trying to say that he's a lawyer whose arguments are tainted by his personal politics, that's a different argument. If you want to make that argument, you want to say that but I don't agree with that, but you can make that argument. Mark was very clear. Yeah, nobody banned Michael. He wouldn't be here if he'd been banned. So anyway, this is really a soft win, but ANC are going to milk it for months. It'll be all over. Yes, it'll be all over crap 24. That's right, Bernard. It's not a win at all of any sort. First off, again, Michael, are you listening? Did you just walk into the program? Let me cover this one more time for viewers, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, the International Court of Justice issued a ruling, 5 things it told Israel to comply with. It has no enforcement authority over Israel. Israel would be foolish not to address the final judgment, which was to submit a report to the court within 30 days, because world opinion would turn against them. So they will do that. Mark my words. There's a prediction for you, Michael. They will submit a report to the ICJ. They would be fools not to. So the ICJ, number 1, did not call for or order a ceasefire. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you that, number 1, the court recognizes the sovereignty of Israel. Number two, they recognize Israel is acting in self-defense. Now, whether they're acting with proportionality or within the confines of law, international agreement, is the argument that will be discussed in future if the case goes forward. But the fact that they did not call for a ceasefire tells you volumes. So no victory here. So the purpose, let's put this in clear terms for even the leftist hate wankers to understand. The purpose of the ANC, stated purpose, not the real purpose. The real purpose we know is to do what their masters in Tehran have told them. But the stated purpose of the ANC was to end the suffering, to stop the suffering of the Palestinian people. What have they achieved today? Israel now has 30 more days of carte blanche to continue its conflict against Hamas. They have 30 more days to wrap up their operations. That's the bottom line here. That's the tangible outcome of the ICJ. That is what occurred today. The International Court of Justice on the 26th of January, 2024, gave Israel a free pass to continue offensive operations in Gaza for 30 days. Now, how is it that analysts don't see that? How is it that legacy media don't see that? How is it that fake human rights advocates from Human Rights Watch and leftists the world over think this is a victory? Your purpose, ANC, was to stop the suffering of innocent civilians. You haven't accomplished jack squat. Not a damn thing. This is no victory for the ANC. There's a super chat there coming from Deborah Olivier saying, ban Michael. should we entertain super chats to ban Michael? See how many come in. Seriously. The ANC's stated goal here was to end the suffering, to stop the firing, a ceasefire. Did they get it? No. In fact, the court didn't tell Israel to give them a report next week or the week after or the week after that. They gave them 30 days to continue their campaign to eradicate Hamas. You didn't give a super chat, Christine. 30 days. So that is the headline. The ICJ gives Israel 30 more days to continue its offensive. There's your headline. There is the tangible outcome. Not an ANC victory. Not a victory lap for the corrupt Human Rights Watch, the silent Amnesty International. The story here is that the ICJ recognized Israel's sovereignty and its right to self-defense under the United Nations Charter and international norms, and they gave them 30 more days to continue their offense. Yes, Israel was support to do it the way the ANC does things with BS commissions. He made definite predictions of jurisdiction and merit to legal avenues. His personal politics have made some of his cases sad to watch. That Kill the Borisov case was not good. Okay, really? Not good at all? He got Julius Malema to admit that he committed crimes and despite the interference of the judges. Michael, you clearly have a beef with Mark Oppenheimer. He's a brilliant constitutional advocate. He made definitive predictions of jurisdiction. Well, predictions of jurisdiction doesn't mean anything. Okay, let's be very clear about something here. Just because a court rules doesn't mean it's legal, just, or moral. Courts violate law all the time. Roe versus Wade was unconstitutional. And I draw your attention once again to the 10th Amendment of the United States, in which there is no mention of abortion listed anywhere in this Constitution. So the 10th Amendment to the Constitution says the following, as I've read many times in here. It's a very short one. The power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. In other words, if there's not a power specifically enumerated inside the Constitution to the federal government, like providing for the common defense, protecting our borders, taxation. If it's not specifically delegated to the United States by or prohibited by the Constitution to the states. So that is saying the same thing. The things like national defense are not a responsibility of the states. They reside with the federal government. These powers are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Therefore, abortion has no legal basis in law for the federal government. Now, Donald Trump is calling for, he said he'll support a national ban on abortion. That's ludicrous. There's no authority for that. That will be struck down as unconstitutional as soon as it's passed by any legislature, if it becomes president. So people can calm down about that. And I won't support that because it violates the Constitution. The federal government has no say in abortions. As simple as that. That's one exception. They have a say in abortions that are territories under the control of the federal government, so on federal property. So military installations, VA hospitals, yeah, they can ban abortions there, but they cannot ban it in Pennsylvania. They cannot ban it in Texas. They cannot ban it anywhere. And for 50 plus years, they violated the law. So courts aren't always right. The Supreme Court approved Plessy versus Ferguson, in which they approved the doctrine of separate but equal, basically apartheid. They basically approved apartheid in 1898, Plessy versus Ferguson. Now, that abomination was overturned by Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas in 1954. That's a landmark decision that said that separate but equal facilities were unconstitutional because it violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. There you go. That's a landmark decision, not this garbage today. Come on, man. Okay, Michael, let me help you out here. You thought you were banned because you made 2 comments that you cannot see and the first one disappeared. Well, Michael, I don't see all the comments. I'm busy analyzing, sharing, addressing things, bringing up media, and also looking at the chat. I miss people in the chat. I miss Garrett several times in the chat, and Garrett's one of the closest viewers of this program, and he set up many visits for me in the Western Cape. It's not intentional. I didn't see you, Michael. The fact you got a brown avatar doesn't help. But maybe if you would put a picture on your avatar, it might be helpful. But the comments you put up disappeared were likely removed by YouTube. You don't understand. There's censorship here, folks. We've seen it before. We haven't seen of late where we were watching and we saw people's comments deleted in real time. YouTube has changed their software now so that we don't even see that anymore. 2 years ago, when YouTube was coming in and using AI or computers or people to remove comments by people that they didn't like, I had no control over it, but we could see it. Now, when one of my moderators deletes your comment, it still shows up on my screen, but it's gray. And I can click on it, and it shows me what was said. Michael, I never saw your comments. They're not removed by my moderators because I would have seen that. And they weren't removed by me. I don't have time to remove you right now. If I remove somebody, I always pause and tell people, all right, I have to take action now because somebody's misbehaving. So you're mistaken, Michael. No harm, no foul. You don't understand how YouTube works. It's an evil platform. I don't know what you said, but if you said some profanity or said something that contradicts what they want to be heard, and sometimes it's rather innocuous. People put innocuous things. ANC got paid by Hamas and their cronies to go to court. All of a sudden, they say their money problems are over. Yeah, exactly. What are the great cases he's been on and won? He told you about cases he was on. He told you cases he won. Did he not? He said it right there on the program. He pointed out a landmark decision that went before, was it the Supreme Court of Appeal or the Constitutional Court? I can't remember, in which it changed the way that law is being executed in South Africa. It was very clear. He's won cases, the highest court in the country. So, Michael, look, you got to get over your personal bias about Mark. And if you want to criticize, go back and watch the video again, listen to what he said, then take that case and go back and give me a counter argument about the case and tell me it wasn't a landmark decision. No. Yeah, Erica says, Michael be banned? No, not yet. He's asking legit questions and not acting like an ass. Exactly right. That's what Michael's doing. Michael's asking, look, I welcome this sort of stuff. It gives me an opportunity to just tear it apart and debunk it. Yeah, YouTube does block good content, R1, that's for sure. Has anyone met a YouTube employee? No, I never have. No, I never have. I will donate 500 coins if you have a chat with No Politics, speak about the weather, gardening, movies, and so on. Well, Patrick, I've done that endlessly. So what's your point? No politics involved in my discussion of the macadamia nut industry in South Africa. No politics involved in my conversation with the poultry industry in South Africa. No politics involved with my discussions or my documentary on Goed Constantia. No politics involved with my visit and video produced about the Basotho Cultural Village. Nothing there. I've done tons of content. Tour the Basotho Cultural Village in the Golden Gate National Park. There's no politics involved there. This video, Let me get it up here. This video, which I published, 12-minute video, 10 months ago, and only has 572 views. Okay, here we go. All right, let's watch this. You ready for this? The Basutu Cultural Village, Golden Gate Park, South Africa, a 16th to 21st century experience. Only 572 people bothered to watch this. I did this video 10 months ago. Hello, folks. Join me as we take a look at the Basutu Cultural Village. A visit to the Basutu Cultural Village at the foot of the Drakensberg Mountains in the Free State will give the visitor an insight into the lifestyle of the South Sutu peoples from the 16th century to the present day. The Basutu Cultural Village lies along the R7112 from Harrismith in the eastern side of the Golden Gate National Park, or from Clarence traveling through the park. The tour begins at the Katloa under the expert guidance of a tour guide. In my case, his name was Twice. A visitor cannot enter the chief's village and explore the way of life of his people without first receiving the chief's permission. Now, the chief is a generous host, and he'll offer you a sip of Sutu beer as a token of hospitality, and you may engage in a traditional game of Maraba Raba. Well, there you go, folks. There you go. That's no politics. That's simply a cultural experience, and shadow banned by YouTube, just 572 views. I feel bad for the Basutu people whom I made that video about. Yep. All right. If the ICC have given Israel authority to submit a report, does it not make sense? They find no genocide currently. Correct. Correct. And here's the other argument, Earl. Thank you. If this is in fact an urgent case, as Mr. Farage, whatever the guy with the Human Rights Watch claimed, a speedy judgment in an urgent case, why would they give him 30 more days? Why would they give him 30 more days? Wow. Unbelievable. By the way, folks, I should mention I'm in a great deal of pain and discomfort right now. I saw the dentist yesterday for my follow-up for that root canal I had 3 weeks ago. And oh my goodness, my jaw is killing me right now. It's been very painful. So I didn't take any meds this morning. I should take some Tylenol and some ibuprofen before I do the news, if I do it. Charles is one of them, and Dylan, one of the people who saw that video. We're not here to listen to Chris speak about the weather. We're here to listen to his very astute, condensed version of the news. Well, thank you for that, Deborah. But I also cover everything. Stan Myers here, and Stan says, ICJ called for the release of all hostages. I didn't see that. Where are people seeing that at? I don't even see that in the media anywhere. I didn't see that in the media anywhere. None of the mainstream media are actually saying that. So I, early in the broadcast at the beginning, if that's true, I erroneously said that they didn't address it. I couldn't find it. I've heard people say it on social media, but no one gives me a link. I watched part. I didn't have time to watch all the judgment. I watched part of it, and I didn't hear that. So if I find that, I will correct the record, because in the beginning of this broadcast, I said that they had not addressed it. But Stan, thank you for that. John Jarvis also said that at the beginning of the broadcast, but again, I have not seen that, so I don't know the answer there. Tooth pain is the worst. Oh, Charles, it's pretty sucky. Yes, they did very specifically, says Stan. Well, thank you for that, Stan, but I'm going to have to find that. As I said, the legacy media, that's not mentioned anywhere. It's all about the judgment against Israel and all about playing it up and claiming it's some great historic landmark decision, which is not. The landmark decision, once again, was the Gambia case, which was brought years ago. Yeah. So if the jive is personal, then you will get banned. Exactly. Exactly. Can we organize the SADF to go blue hat under the UN to police the tunnels in Gaza? Keith, that's a funny one there. Hey, George Steinberg, welcome to you. CyberEggs is back. Good to see you. Olaf is here. You guys are all popping in. You must have come for the news and missed the announcement that we were here earlier. Where be your cash then, Colonel? Huh? What cash? What cash? Garrett says Mark was very articulate, cool interview, calm, well-spoken advocate. I agree. But Mike doesn't like him. I don't see any more comments from Mike. You haven't been banned ever since I asked you to give me the cases. So where is that at? Have you seen our Lovely News 24? They turn off comment options for subjects they know will garner negative comments. Yes, they also do fact checks that are factually incorrect. And I called that out recently too on my channel. Yeah, no, I cover everything. I mean, I cover politics, I cover science, I cover space, I cover agriculture, I cover culture, I cover language, I cover everything in the sun. I cover, and I cover things that don't include politics, many things, but they don't give views. I was asked yesterday about why do journalists always focus on bad news? And I said, there's a very good reason for it, because nobody watches good news. We have the evidence time and again. No one opens the paper up and looks for the story about the kid who was saved in the well. They're not looking for that. They're looking for the 6 people killed in a drive-by shooting in a shebeen last night in Josie. That's what they're looking for. That's what people want to see. I'm sorry, it's just human nature to watch a train wreck. It is human nature. You ever see a fight break out in an department store and mothers hide their kids behind their leg? What do the kids do? They look around the parent's leg because they want to see what's going on. It's the nature of humans to be curious about misfortune. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Patrick, donating 500 coins. Well, you're overdue with that payment because I've done the things that you're asking about many, 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 many times. Yeah. Anyway, so all right. Jojo, was it Jojo? Somebody says stands with Israel there. Jolie says I stand with Israel. Cool beans. Thank you, Jolie. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Yes, they are specifically. What else got here? What you do with your goats is your own story. Exactly, Charles. You keep your goats to yourself. I don't see a good reason to switch off comments. That's a red flag. Well, I don't switch off comments on any of mine. I also don't turn off the comments on the video lives. Sometimes YouTube doesn't post it. It's a problem I discovered 3 or 4 years ago, and I asked Ramon Kabanak about it because I said, do you know how to prevent that? And he goes, no, they do it to my videos too. It isn't consistent. Sometimes they're taken off, sometimes they're not. But I always leave comments on. Now, I will delete racist and hateful comments that I come across, but also I'll respond to people who think they're being kind of cheeky and erudite, and I just slam back against them at times. So yeah, to be honest, I truly need the truth from Chris, as the news we receive on our news reel constantly is extremely depressing, in my opinion. Well, Helen, to be fair, a lot of the news I share is depressing, but it's necessary for people to be aware of things. And I also try to find uplifting stories, too, and you know that. William Rawls says, how does the American government take to the shenanigans of the ANC? Actually, I got to be honest with you, William. I think that Joe Biden is a little more concerned about his chocolate chip ice cream, and Anthony Blinken is much more concerned as a Jewish man about Israel right now than anything that's going on in South Africa. I don't think that all things being equal, if Joe Biden wasn't senile at this stage, he would probably be rah-rahing the ANC to victory. Of course, remember that Joe Biden famously visited Robben Island, the former residence of Nelson Mandela Bay. That's a tongue-in-cheek residence comment. Yeah, he visited Robben Island when he was in Soweto. He actually said this. He actually said that I visited Robben Island in Soweto. Of course, Soweto is an amalgamation of the words Southwest Townships. It's not even a word. It's not an African word. It's not. It's from English. Soweto. It sounds African. Soweto. Soweto. Sounds African. It's not. It's English. Southwest Townships. Soweto. So Joe Biden thinks that Robben Island is located in Soweto. So if he wasn't senile at this stage, he would be rah-rahing his fellow travelers in the ANC and cheering them on. But Joe Biden is not doing that, largely because he's senile. I saw a Christian Evangelist channel I used to watch turned off by comments in their videos. They want everyone to listen to them, but you can't ask or leave comments. That is dodgy. Now, look, there are certain times in certain mainstream media outlets when they put something out and they block comments. I don't have a problem with that. For instance, if you live cover something, there are exceptions. But by and large, I think you should leave the comments on. Just for info, Morning Shot covered something about the ICJ. We'll check it out after your chat. Yeah, they did, George. Thanks for sharing that. They did a pre-show, and then they are stealing my thunder right now by going live at this time. So let's just go to that now. They're actually live now. See how many viewers they've got. Morning Shot. They're not showing up here. They had a pre-show. They got 1,000 people to watch their pre-show. Okay? And let me just, that's on the retarded stand. Let me see if Morning Shot, if they are live right now. Morning Shot. Okay? Don't appear to be live at the moment. But they were scheduled to go live at 10 o'clock, so maybe it was retarded stand. because they don't do Retardistan. Let's see if they are live right now. No, 2 hours ago. They're not live, but something said they were on at 10 o'clock, so I don't know what that was. But they got 1,000. He's got a much larger channel now. He's, well, Retardistan is much smaller, so that's interesting. Live reaction to ICJ. So, anyway, yeah, whatever. That's their business. That's their product. They haven't had me on in ages, but Byron does come on my program periodically, so. My husband bought tires. They were delivered to Somerville Road, Somerville, Maine, instead of the repair guy on Razorville Road. It was instead delivered to a Chinese family living in a beautiful house. Okay, now, Michael Holmes is saying that Joe Biden is the greatest president since Barack Obama. Joe Biden is not a president. He's an empty vessel. He's a Manchurian candidate. And Barack Obama was the most disgraceful thing that's happened to this country in a century. Even worse than the racial discrimination exhibited by King Franklin Roosevelt in putting Japanese Americans into concentration camps, because that harmed Japanese Americans. Barack Obama's race policies harmed 300 million Americans. Yep. The woods he had to go track them down. Wow. Near Washington, Maine. Okay. Yep. I didn't see their second broadcast. So, all right. Well, they came on at 10 o'clock with a reaction post, so I don't know. Anyway. Comparing Biden and Obama, you need to up your standards. Yeah, exactly. Look, Obama was a disaster, but at least he was cogent and he was not senile or demented. Yep. He could walk up a flight of stairs, too. As he spread his racial hatred across the world. Yep. All right. So, folks, 1 hour and 41 minutes on this topic, and we've covered it. They live streamed during the actual decision. Yeah, they had a pre-show too, John. The pre-show before the decision. I don't know if they changed the title after the fact, but they posted a pre-show, pre-decision show. I didn't get a chance to watch it. Michael's comments aren't visible on my side as far as I can see. His last comment was about minimizing human suffering. No, Michael just said Joe Biden's greatest president since Obama. I don't know why you can't see them, R1. Did you block him at some point individually? Helen says, I appreciate the truth from you. You're welcome for that, Helen. It's my pleasure. All right. He's son of Army, works for VA. Okay, I'm not sure what Shannon's talking about there. Was a short, but not as informative. Oh, okay. No, Garrett, look, okay, let's not start some fictitious dispute with Roman Kabanak and Byron Shepard and Morning Shot. I got nothing but the utmost respect for them. I've interviewed Roman in person. I've had him on my channel from distance. I have had Byron on the program multiple times. I've done a live stream with Byron in Port Elizabeth. Nothing but respect. Enjoy those guys. They have a lot of contacts, and Roman is a lawyer, and Byron is a successful businessman who knows how to negotiate the race laws in South Africa successfully. So nothing but respect for them and what they do. I'm just saying that they went on earlier, and on their channel, which has 1,800 viewers, they have gotten over 1,000 views. They had 500 views when it was on. Now they have over 1,000. We have 700 views on this. Let's see how many views we get in the end. We'll see. Just further proof. Now, to be fair, they are in South Africa and have a South African IP address. So YouTube in South Africa is promoting that video, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. My IP address is here, and people always tell me use a South African IP address, but it doesn't work as simple as that. Your crappy internet connection makes it very difficult to send all this data to South Africa, come back to me simultaneously, and go back out like this. It just doesn't work very well. So I can use a VPN, but it doesn't work very well. But look, when I switch to my mobile, I get bigger audiences because they don't know the IP address. Do you think the $4 billion spent on the Middle East went into funding this type of charade? William Roll, I can't answer your question unless you tell me what $4 billion you're referring to. Talking about the $3.8 billion the U.S. gives in military assistance to Israel, the $800 million it gives in military assistance to Egypt. I'm not sure what $4 billion you're talking about. Might have top messages selected and not all messages. Exactly. Yeah, thank you for that, CB. That's an obvious one. You have to pick on the chat. You have live chat, and then you have top chat. So you have to make sure you have live chat. You will miss people if you don't have live chat selected. That's the bottom line there. So that's a good point. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, thank you. Not backed by, but loving patriots. Who? Oh, you're welcome. Shannon's thanking me. Yeah. So Anyway, it's better to have engaging comments, questions. How else do we hear both sides of the story? The Colonel's always given both sides an opportunity to express their opinions. Thank you for that, Charles. And I paid heavily for that. Erica and where is Hendo at? He's sleeping today? Eric and Hendo and all the people who have been with us from the very beginning, Paulie and others, know that because they remember the days of Christian Peridago and Victoria Conti coming on this program. And I let them ask their questions and I addressed them, no matter how ludicrous they were and how leftist they were. I appreciate discourse, but cogent discourse, not emotional drivel. Yep, exactly right. So that might be why people aren't seeing it. But Michael should be able to see his own comments. So something else might be going on. But I see Michael's comments. I just read another one there, unless some are missing. Anyway, Ramon and Byron had 3 up that I've watched. They've had 3 videos on this then. All right. Well, they're trying to capitalize on it, no doubt. Good for them. I'll have to make a short after this and talk about, I'll make a short and talk about what happened as soon as this is over. Erica will be right back. We might not be here when you get back, Erica. I just want to respond to William's question. I want to wait for what he's talking about here because I don't know the answer. I don't know the question. So if William responds, William Rawle responds very quickly, I'll respond to that. Then we'll take a break and I will do news, but it'll be an abbreviated news program. Yeah, it is strange how the ICJ has given Israel 30 more days for its campaign, and nobody has mentioned that. Maybe somebody's mentioned it while I've been on air, but nobody mentioned it before I went on air. Only I mentioned it. Only I mentioned that. They have condoned, not condemned, condoned Israel's actions for 30 more days. That if they'd ordered a ceasefire and then a report in 30 days, then they wouldn't have agreed with it. So there you go. There you go, folks. That's the bottom line. Anyway, well, it looks like I'm not going to get a response from William Rawle. I don't know if he's way behind in the chat. Oh, okay, here it comes. I heard there's a deal with Iran. I may have picked up. Oh, okay, that's okay. William, let me help you out with that. Okay, so the corrupt Biden regime decided to release $6 billion of money that belonged to the Shah of Iran's government. That money's been held in bank accounts in the U.S. for decades because of the theocracy terrorist state so-called terrorist state in Iran. They refused to release that money. Now, Barack Obama gave him some of that money back years ago, plus some other money to because he likes the theocracy. But Joe Biden had agreed to transfer that to Iran. The money was sent into a bank account unlike with Barack Obama, he flew U.S. military planes there with pallet loads of dollars. He flew pallet loads of dollars without the public's knowledge, violating all kinds of currency laws. And Barack Obama is another criminal. He did that. So plus electronic transfers. But they transferred electronically $6 billion to a bank, I believe in Dubai or somewhere in the Emirates. And there was a big brouhaha by conservatives and the far right in America complaining about Biden financing terrorism because he gave money to Iran. Well, that's a red herring. The $6 billion never got to Iran. Now, it never got there because there was an uproar and it got stopped. It was about to be transferred, and that was stopped. The money has, I believe, been returned to the United States since then. I believe. Don't know for a fact, but I know it did not go to Iran unless they've lied to us and they slipped it in pallet loads on aircraft. But that's not the issue. That's the issue people are up in arms about. And when that story came out, William, I contradicted that story and told people that's not what matters. It's a red herring. There's nothing to it. The real issue here is Joe Biden's war on energy, his assault on the energy production sector in the most productive and largest energy producing nation in the planet. And no, it's not Saudi Arabia, it's the United States. We produce more energy than any other country in the world by a significant margin. We also briefly became the world's largest petroleum producer, outproducing Saudi Arabia, something we had not done since the 1960s. Since the 1960s was the last time that we outproduced Saudi Arabia on a daily basis. But we did that under Trump. I'm not saying because of Trump, I'm saying under Trump. And we still produce a lot of oil today, despite Joe Biden's war on energy. But Biden launched the war on energy, shutting down the Keystone Pipeline illegally, without justification, an illegal executive order. He has no authority to do what he did, but he did it. And then attacking the industry, accusing the energy industry of raising its prices when the prices went up because of the uncertainty he drove into the energy markets and the futures markets. So in that 2 years, the jackass Joe Biden's administration was driving up energy prices, and we were paying $5 a gallon for gasoline that had cost $1.89 a gallon the day before jackass Joe became president. Iran reaped a windfall somewhere between $70 and $90 billion of profits from oil, from the increase in oil price, that they wouldn't have gotten if Joe Biden had never started an energy war. Joe Biden's energy war allowed Iran to accrue $70 to $90 billion of excess windfall profits they wouldn't have gotten. That's what's financing terrorism. That's what's financing the Houthis. That's what's financing the ANC. The money we're paying for energy, we don't buy oil from Iran, but the rest of the world, Europeans and Japanese in particular, the money they pay for energy is what's financing this, not the $6 billion. The $6 billion is a red herring, William. Never happened. It was going to happen, but it got stopped. But the profits made by the increase in oil that they don't deserve, that they didn't merit, that they didn't earn, simply because the uncertainty of the energy markets driven by Biden's ludicrous decisions is why they have so much money. So there's your answer. Does that answer the question? All right. Hopefully that does answer the question for you. From the transcript, I'm not getting the same chat over here in my streaming software that I'm now getting in the studio with YouTube. Let me refresh the chat over here and see if I get it now. This is maybe we're having all kinds of chat problem, not just Michael. Okay, now nothing's showing up. I have no chat. There it is. Okay, chat. It says top chat. Got to go back to live chat. Okay, so it says it's better to have engaging comments. How else do we hear both sides? Yep. Okay, missed the earlier stream time. Yeah, Mike, that's because I'm covering the ICJ decision, so the news will be coming up. Chris, I still would like for you to do a chat with Big Daddy Liberty. I think Gabriel, I've done chats with Big Daddy Liberty, but the guy's impossible to reach. He never answers his messages. Ask people who are in touch with him. I had Big Daddy Liberty on my program 3 years ago. On the program, he was sitting in a bucky as the sun went down, and he had to keep turning on the dome lights so you could see him. That was a very interesting broadcast. Then we did a live stream from Todi. He and I did together. I've been on his program 20 times maybe, but he's not broadcasting right now, and he's also not available. I've had conversations with Big Daddy Liberty. I'd love to talk to him about this topic because he's Jewish, but it's not happening. Doesn't matter how many numbers you have. Watch, it's word of mouth. Heard there was a deal with Iran. Yeah, so that's what I addressed. Okay. Many of my military friends and such tune in. Well, thank you for that, Shannon. From the transcript, fate of the hostages abducted during the attack since then, and other groups and calls for me. Thank you, John Jarvis. I'll look for the transcript then, so it's in the transcript. I appreciate that. Because power crushed that. What? You're welcome, William. Okay. Hey, Sean Eastman. Unfortunately, folks, I'm going to end the stream right here. Even though we got 90 plus people hearing, right? We're going to end it here. Almost an hour and 52 minutes. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I will do the news here shortly. It'll be, give me until about 11:30. Might be 11:45 my time. You see it on the clock behind me there. So in the next 15 minutes to half hour, I'll go live again. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope you found this informative. And also, I think you found analysis here you're not finding elsewhere. You might find it later on because a lot of people do watch my program that are in media. And I often see analysis and points that I make not discussed by the legacy media or other social commentators or other YouTube content creators or social media that suddenly starts cropping up a week, 10 days, or a few days after I've told people about this. So somebody's watching. That's a fact. All right, we'll see you guys here shortly for the news. And then I've got some things to take care of today. So, all right, thank you so much. Let me wrap it up right here. Have a lovely day. And so the bottom line here, the wrap up for this, the story here, folks, is that the International Court of Justice has rendered a ruling with 5 points directing Israel to do what Israel's doing already, except for the final 2 points, which was to safeguard evidence of what, and the final one, which was to submit a report. The other 3 are simply Israel complying with international norms. Israel has 30 days to submit the report. The International Court of Justice did not order a ceasefire. The International Court of Justice recognizes Israel's sovereignty and its right to self-defense. And oh, by the way, this is not a win for the ANC because their primary mission was to stop the killing of civilians in Gaza. And the ICJ has now given the Israeli government 30-day free pass to continue their operations in Gaza. There you go, folks. We'll see you on the news. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. And I hope this was informative. All right. Thank you all so much. Always a pleasure. See you shortly for the news.